look at my first cousin, David Myers, and as I look at my angelic sister, Tara Anderson in the front, and as I look at in the back of the room, and I see the good people from Sally, South Carolina, I'm reminded of family. And in our family, we are taught many things. We say our prayers before we eat, before we sleep. Men are taught to open doors for women. We know that any point in the breakfast menu, there has to be grits and sweet tea as part of the conversation. But we're also taught that the two most important words in the English language are thank you. And they're never said enough. So first, thanks to God, because it is only but for reasons of his own, that he has favored all of us to be here for such a time as this, and I thank him for that. To this incredible staff, wait staff, who gave us incredible service and incredible food, and is going to give some of us incredible sleep. Y'all give them a hand of to the staff of TRIO, past, present, and future. Y'all please stand for 1 second. TRIO staff. If you're affiliated with TRIO, please. Heroes and sheroes who don't wear capes but show up every day to fertilize the soul of this country, to make certain that this country is better for us than it was for our parents and our grandparents. And people like me would not be where they are without you all. So one more time, give it up for this TRIO staff. And to the students, future history makers and world changers. If this was an event and there was some trouble surrounding this event, then there would be news cameras everywhere. There would be newspapers, there would be photographers, and there would be news station trucks all around here. But if you never hear from anybody else, and if you don't hear past today, just know, for every student in this room, I'm so proud of you. And you deserve to be celebrated, so give yourselves a big round. I want to share a few thoughts. Now, let me just be transparent. Before I came down here, Karen, my angelic big sister, she said, now, I'm going to put you last because I think you might talk longer than everybody else. And I said, okay. And she said, remember the 5 B's of public speaking? I said, yeah, you must have been talking to my sister. And I said, remind me what those are. And it's be brief, brother, be brief. So in the spirit of Tara, I will attempt to be brief. I honestly want to confess, I thought I was going to have a big surprise for you all. The Vice President of the United States was next door, giving a speech. Spoke to her earlier this week, asked her to come over and surprise you all for a visit. Just got notification that cannot happen because there's a major weather alert in DC, so she has to get back. But in my conversation with her earlier this week, we were talking about TRIO. We were talking about this organization. And I reminded her that in 1964, as part of the Economic Opportunity Act, Upward Bound was created. A year later, in 1965, as part of the Higher Education Act, TRIO was created. And so because of those two programs, 1964 and 1965, the tectonic plates in this country have shifted. And because of those two programs created at a very tumultuous time in this country, because they were created to help students like all of you and students like Antjuan Seawright, we have literally changed the world. We've changed the world. But as the Vice President reminded me in our 7-minute, 15-second conversation, she said, Antjuan, that's all fine and good. However, what has happened in 1964 and what happened in 1965, there were a lot of things that happened in those years, some good and some not so good. But a lot of the good things that happened at that point in our history, unfortunately, some of them have been taken away. And if we're not careful, and if we don't pay attention, and if we don't keep advocating, if we don't continue to show up, if we don't continue to make our presence known in the world, programs like Upward Bound, programs like Talent Search can be taken away just like that. And had she come here today, she would have said in a different way, but she would have quickly told you that it's good to celebrate what has happened and what has been created. But we also have to be intentional about keeping those things because they can be taken away. And make no mistake, there are people, no matter how good these programs have been to you all and to people like me, there are people who literally are working day and night to have the opportunity to take them away. So that would have been the message from our Vice President. To the South Carolina Alumni Association, thank you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity not just to have an award, because awards come and go, and you can give an award to anybody. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here, to have words to go along with the award, and to tell stories. Because people forget about awards, they forget about recognitions, but people don't forget stories. And that's why I want to land a few comments before I take my seat. I stand here as a first generation college student, only a second generation high school graduate. My mother and father did not go to anybody's college, but they were better than my grandparents, my sharecropping grandparents, because at least they could spell college. And because of TRIO, because of Upward Bound, not only did I graduate from Winthrop and then eventually an MBA, but every single one of my siblings, all four of us, have at least one 4-year degree. And there's only one of us that does not have a second degree, master's degree. And that's all because of TRIO. And if you don't have a reason to celebrate anything, y'all should be celebrating the fact that that happened to me and my family. So it's okay to clap. Now, to my good friend here who was awarded before me, he talked about his 3.8 GPA. I'm over there sitting in my seat jealous because a lot of my friends walked across that stage in May of 2008. They graduated cum laude and magna cum laude. Here I am graduating. Thank you, Lord. So congratulations to you and all of you who have done the incredible task of walking across the stage and making our parents and our grandparents proud. Let me leave you with 3 quick things and I'll take my seat. I want to talk about time for a second. Somebody say time.
Time.
Yesterday was probably one of the hardest days in my 38 years of living. January 5th, 2023, my 21-year-old niece, student at Benedict College, was killed in a horrific car accident. On the way to get her paycheck from her part-time job to buy my oldest brother his birthday gift a day late. She was killed in a car accident. So this award, I give it in her honor, I accept it in her honor. And although she would have continued our family tradition of being a second generation college graduate at some point, and a third generation high school graduate, she's no longer with us to fulfill that promise. And so don't think, for the students in the room, that you have a lot of time. Now I believe that God orchestrates our time as He orders our steps. But if I had to tell you about time, do everything you can every single day you have the ability to do it. Because I'm sure the morning of January 5th, 2023, my 21-year-old niece did not think going down I-20 that she would end up dying in a car accident. I'm sure she had life plans, she had graduation plans, she had work plans, she had career plans, she had family plans. But we don't know. And so because we don't know, we have to manufacture ourselves in what we do know. And what we do know is one day at a time is what we have, one moment at a time, do everything we can. That's time. Somebody say time.
Time.
For the adults in the room, duties and responsibilities. In my household, they were obligations. We don't know sometimes why we're put in certain spaces and places. Special education teacher. We don't know what the day may be. We don't know what the night may hold. What we do know is we end up in certain spaces and places, but we have an obligation and a duty and a responsibility to help people while we're there. And so for you staffers in the room or you adults, don't lose focus on the mission. Because had some counselor not visited Swanson High School to see me, not taking the time on a Saturday morning to help me with math, the subject that I struggle with, not spent the time during the summer 6 weeks at the University of South Carolina in that dormitory teaching me what the college experience was like, not taking time to go on college tours, not giving me that voucher to fill out a college education, not telling me what a cultural activity was. Had all those things not happened in my life, I declare I may not be standing here, right now. So don't think just because you may not get an award, just because you may not be on the front page of the paper, that your work is not meaningful or purposeful. In fact, because of TRIO, I found myself at Winthrop leaning into the arts. And one of the things I remember in my spare time, I read a lot, I write a lot, but I'm a big fan of Shakespeare. And Shakespeare says, all the world's a stage. The men and women are merely players. They have their entrances and they have their exits. But in one man's or one woman's life, they will play many roles. You all play a tremendous role, whether you're a parent, whether you're a counselor, or whether you're just a mentor. You play a tremendous role in shaping the next generation of leaders. Don't take that for granted. And finally, stepping outside of our comfort zone. If you know anything about the mission and the work of this organization from 1964 to now, it's always been about stepping outside of your comfort zone to help people who normally would not be helped. First generation college students, people in rural South Carolina, whether Sally, Peoria, Swansea, North, or anywhere else, people who normally would not receive the type of benefits or attention that they would not get that other people would get. That's what this organization has been about. But that work requires all of us to step outside of our comfort zone sometimes. So sometimes that means long hours for your students. Sometimes that means extra time on the weekends when you're going to get that check that I think y'all get, or at least we got it when we went from Saturday mornings. Or sometimes it's the 6 weeks during the summer to get you an experience. Stepping outside of your comfort zone will be a mandatory thing for you for the rest of your life. And as I close, I'll tell you a little story about comfort zone. For those of us who studied in school, we were taught that the light bulb was invented by Thomas Edison. Those of us who were taught that the light bulb was invented by Thomas Edison. And that's true. Thomas Edison did invent the light bulb. But what they may not teach all of us, sometimes in February during Black History Month, is that when Thomas Edison was creating the light bulb, he could not get the light bulb to work. He could not get the light bulb to stay on. And so he had a problem. So Thomas Edison, this white man, had to go find a man who was the son of slaves by the name of Lewis Latimer up in Boston, Massachusetts. White man, Thomas Edison, wanted to create the light bulb, did not work, did his research, had to go find the son of slaves, a black man by the name of Lewis Latimer. Lewis Latimer is the inventor of the filament, the thing that keeps the light bulb on to keep it working. And so when those two people hooked up, Thomas Edison, white man from up north, went down to Boston, Massachusetts to find Lewis Latimer, black guy, son of slaves. When those two people hooked up, they created the light bulb that actually worked, and together they lit up the world. And had Thomas Edison not stepped out of his comfort zone, and he not stepped out of his home in Pennsylvania and go down to Boston, Massachusetts to find Lewis Latimer, perhaps the building that we sit in today, as I look up at those lights, perhaps those lights would not be on. If they had not found themselves talking to people who had different life experiences than them, different skin color than them, different backgrounds than them, different social economic statuses than them, had they not hooked up, perhaps the world would have never been lit up. Why am I telling you this? From this point on in your life, whether you're a student or whether you're an adult, you will be challenged every single day to step outside of your comfort zone. But just remember, if you find yourself being afraid to step outside of your comfort zone, remember that perhaps you stepping outside of your comfort zone and finding someone else who doesn't think like you, look like you, or has the same swag as you, you might be missing an opportunity to light up the world.